Hi, welcome to my first video on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be going over the pattern that I've sent you. It is in centimeters. It is not for the American language. So here's what I did for this particular pattern, because I have had to, I liked her style. It just is kind of complicated and I didn't understand it, and I'm also really bad at reading things. I just do things in what feels right to me in my sewing. So I've kind of pulled together some of the items that I've been using and how I've been using them. These are the templates that I have cut out. What I did with her particular, when you print out her pattern, you can print it on cardstock, which is what I have done. And then what I did is I took my little measuring tool here, and then on the paper, before I cut it out, I went 1/4 of an inch. I did 1/4 of an inch on my thing here, if you can see that, 1/4 of an inch on my thing here. And then what I did is I went from the line of her pattern and I outlined 1/4 of an inch bigger than what she has, because what she wants you to do is mark it on the fabric itself, which I think is a lot of work and quite frankly very frustrating. So I just made the paper one 1/4 of an inch bigger than what she has, and then she'll tell you the distance between the liner and the shield. So this will be this whole part will be your shield, and then this part will be the liner of the inside. You can mix and match whatever fabrics. I'm a big fan of white, but white shows like your makeup and stuff, but it'll also show you it's time to clean it, because some of the other dirtier fabric, you'll smell your breath after a while in your mask, but when it's white, you'll be able to tell, especially with your kids, when it is time to wash them. And I try to wash them like once a week at this point. And then I just used like a simple, this is an adult mask that I'm making for a friend and a neighbor. And so that's fine. Anyway, excuse my kids. It's snack time and I've been meaning to do this, so I'm just doing it. Anyway, so go ahead and cut. What I do is I cut out a bunch of blocks. Like I do a bunch of square fabrics instead of just doing this. So I cut, I cut 7x7 block fabric, like squared fabrics, for the shield, and this is for the adult size, and then I do a 7x5 inch rectangle for the liner fabric, and then I just line a couple fabrics up, and then I just use my rotary cutter and then I cut them out. That way I can get a lot of masks cut in a short amount of time without having to like lay it and do one mask at a time. This way I can do multiple layers and I might have a little bit more waste fabric, but this way it's faster, and especially if kids have to wear masks, or school, you need to make a bunch of masks, or you're making masks. This is just a simpler way, quicker way to get more masks done. Anyway, so when you get this cut out, you'll have your nose piece and then you'll have your chin piece. Please make sure when you're doing directional fabric that you have this lined up correctly. I cut a bunch of shark fabric the wrong way, and it made me sad because the sharks are swimming upside down. So make sure with the directional fabric you are cutting, and I have put down, this is the nose, this is the chin, and you can kind of tell because the nose kind of comes up just a tad bit more than the chin just kind of juts down. You'll be able to see it better once you've made these a couple of times, but definitely use just like a non-generic, non-directional fabric for the first couple times before you use regular fabric. So once you get that done, once you get them cut out, you're gonna sew along the top part of your mask. I use my pinking shears to trim around so it'll turn really good. And then you do the same thing with this. Make sure you do wrong sides together, and then, you know, you do your pinking shears. And then what I do is, the next step is you grab your liner fabric, and you're gonna want to, with the wrong side up, you're going to want to, you're gonna want to flat iron 1/4 of an inch down on this side. On both sides actually, but make sure you're doing it with the wrong sides, or like with the wrong side up. So hopefully you understand that. If not, let me know in the comment and then I can help you with that. But you're gonna want to, and I just eyeball this. I don't, when you're trying to make a bunch of masks in a quick amount of time, eyeballing it is fantastic. So then you're gonna stitch, once you get it ironed down, you're gonna want to stitch it into place. And that's, this is where you can do whatever you want. I stitch it probably 1/8 of an inch, and I do not do 1/4. I do it just as close as I can so that that fabric will not show after you get it sewn all together. And when you're doing multiple masks at a time, just get them all done, and then just like get them to this point. I get like maybe 4 masks to this exact point, and then this is where I, you know, factory roll them in together. I just stitch them all at the same time, because thread will become scarce. So, or like good thread will become scarce. So once you've got, so now you have, this is where the inside of your liner will be, and then you have it stitched down so that your raw edges are on the inside of where your raw edges. Does that make sense? Okay. Then once you have that done, I usually flat iron my shield. I kind of push the seam out, and then I iron it flat. Just like that. Iron it flat. Then take your liner, and then you're gonna put the right sides together. Make sure you've got the nose part, and you can always check it when you put them together. They will match. It'll look like they'll fit in together, and these will actually go really well together. But make sure you have the nose piece and the chin pieces together. So then what you're gonna do is pin it into place, which is, it kind of just, if you cut these out right, they'll just fit really well together. Do the top and the bottom. Okay. And I don't know how to make this work, so I will try to trim this down so that it is a very not so long of a video, but and I'm trying to get all the information I can into a short amount of time, so you'll have to forgive me. And like I said, if you have any questions, just let me know. So now that you've got this pinned together, all you're gonna do is just sew from the liner point down to the liner point. That's all you're gonna do. Do both sides. And like I said, you can do liner fabric of any kind, and you can do your shield of any kind. Like I just do white because it's easy to tell when it's time to clean it. And I just go around. And when you're making a ton of these, it does not have to be perfect. I do these just along the edge. You know, you can do 1/4 of an inch seam on these, and always trim your trim your threads like crazy, because any kind of thread will tickle your face if you have a sensitive face like mine, and it will become very irritating. So please make sure you you trim your thread and trim it short. Not enough that it'll come unraveled, but just enough so that it's not bothering your face, because it does tickle my face if I ever have red hanging out. So that's another Risa tip. So okay, so now, and you're basically almost done here. Trim thread, trim your thread. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you are going to pull it right side out. If you have some kind of stick, I have a ton of these. I make dolls, so I buy a lot of stuffing, and every time you get a stuffer, you get one of these little sticks. So if you have a stick, this makes for a really great turning, pulling, like pushing out your seams. So then what I do after that is I just kind of take one side at a time, and then, okay, so here's one other thing. When you're flat ironing this down, turn this fabric in. See how it's just kind of like that? All you gotta do is just kind of eyeball where, you know, you'll kind of see how it's gonna fall, and then you're just gonna iron that flat. You're not gonna do anything about it. You're not gonna stitch it down. You can if you want, but now is not the time to stitch this down. You're just gonna finger it down and then use your flat iron to iron it down. And this is where I try to iron it really, really good so that you have a solid face mask. With like not a lot of wrinkles. So just like that. Okay. And like I said, I do one side at a time. And then I flip it and I do the bottom again. But you can iron this however you want. Everybody does things differently, so celebrate your differences, even when it comes to ironing. That's kind of corny. I know that sounds like a cat poster. We quote the Lego movie around here a ton. So disclaimer, the Lego movie is one of our favorite movies, and it is not a sponsor yet. Just kidding. Okay. Alrighty, now that you've got this ironed shut, like you've got your extra fabric here on the side down, all you gotta do now is you're gonna iron one side again. You're gonna iron this down about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch, however you want. And then, okay, I'm gonna do that first. I'm gonna flat iron this side down. Then what you're going to do, now that you have this down, fold it to the edge of the liner fabric, just like that. Do not sew the sides. Do not sew the sides. You are just going to sew from this point to this point. You've got to leave these edges out here open for your ear loops, which I will talk about in just a second. So that's what you're going to do. Is stitch it down, and I do about 1/8 of an inch again, just so that it's super tight. Okay. Okay. Trim, trim, trim. Trim anything you can. Anytime you can. Trim. Okay, so then there. there's your side of your mask for your ear loops. Now, I use my ear loops. I have knit fabric. This is just t-shirt fabric. It stretches, you cut it, and then I cut big long strips, and then I pull them all really, really tight so that they do this fun, like this curling method, or whatever you want to call this little phenomenon here. They do not, this will not, the one thing that's cool about knit fabric is that it will not fray. So, for adults, for women adults, I almost would maybe go with 9 inches, but my friend was fine with what I'd cut before. It just depends on how your ears are. I have this handy dandy hemostat. I stick it through here, I grab my piece here, and I pull it through. Not everybody has a hemostat, but if you have a hemostat, this is going to make this job so much easier. Then all you gotta do is just join them together, stitch it, just like this, about, you know, maybe ½ an inch or so, just because you want to pull it tight and you want to make sure that it won't break or come undone. And yeah, and that way you've got maybe a little bit of wiggle room. And this will kind of stretch out after time, so it won't be so tight if it's tight around your ears. But then I just tuck that in right there, and then there's your earpiece. So, yeah, that's it. I didn't want to do the other side just because I wanted to make this quick and short and sweet. It's still about a 16-minute video, but this is the shield mask. And I do like the shield mask. This is going to be a little tighter around my ears, but it does feel, and what you can do is stuff like a tissue in here, a coffee filter, because it is open. You've made this so that's open, so you can put a filter in here to kind of help, like especially if you're going into hospitals or something, you can put a filter inside and then roll the filter away and then just wash this when you're done. To kind of help prevent from you getting any kind of diseases anywhere else. So that is how I make the mask pattern that I've sent to you. And there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I'm not too disgusted with myself right now. I just don't have time to get in the shower right now. I have got a million things to do today, and they're all consisting in this space right here. So anyway, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks. I'll let me know in the comments if you have questions or just get a hold of me personally. So thanks guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye.